Alrighty. So looking at our table, our table was X, Y. What 2 points would be best to use? Which points did you guys use? Did you use for $1, $2, or $4? $1 and what else? $2. Okay. So if we do 1 and 2, we have 35 and 130. All right. So I know that this equation is going to be y equals something, right? So we always want to have it as y equals mx plus b if we can, right? Sometimes the easiest equation we can work with. So finding our slope. What can we do? What do we do to find our slope? Or what did you do to find your slope? Anyone? Oh, hey. There's someone at the door. Eli, right? Yes. What'd you do, Eli?
I was stuck on it.
You got stuck on it? Did anyone get anything for the slope? What did you get? Mia or Maya? Mia. You got 95. How did you find 95? 130 minus 35, right? Because how do we find our slope? It's the change in what over the change in what? Change in y over change in x. So in this case, you did 130 minus 35, which would be our change in y, right? And if we did that, then we would do a change in x on the bottom, but that is just 2 minus 1 is what? It's just 1. So we just have 95 over 1, which is the same thing as 95. Does that make sense? So our slope you got is 95, correct? Okay? Did anyone else do the other 2 points or a different set of points? No. But if you, Amber, yeah.
I did, but I feel like I was just messing up. So this is kind of stuck on it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just a totally different number,
Okay.
which
Yeah, if you did $1 and $4, it would be 320 minus 35, right? As your change in y, and it would have 4 minus 1 on the bottom. You should still get 95 if you check my work. Did you get it? Does that make sense? I don't know if those are the 2 numbers you used, but
basically, like, when I did like 95 plus 95 plus 95, and it did not get me or like, at least the way I did it, I think I did it incorrectly, and I didn't get 320, I got like 200.
got it. I see what you're trying to do, yeah. Okay. So we got our y equals 95x, right? We want to find our y-intercept, right? That's what b is. How can we find our y-intercept? How do we find our y-intercept? Yeah, true.
Try to substitute.
Substitute. What can we substitute in? Anyone else know what we can substitute in? Help them out. Yeah, Drew.
95?
Not 95. 95 is our slope, right? So we plug in, yeah, Mia, what you got? Yeah, so we can plug in a point. We can substitute in a point, right? Because we have x and y. That's the same thing we've got right here in our table. So we can take a point, so 135 or 130, or we can choose our other point for, what was it, 320. We can also use that and plug it in for our x and y, right? So we can substitute our x and y in. So let's plug in 1 and 35 because that's nice. So what do we substitute in for y? 35. And then what do we substitute in for x? 1. We get plus b, right? So when we solve it out, we'll get 35 equals 95 times 1 is just 95 plus b. How do we get b by itself? We isolate the variable. Subtract 95. What do you get? Negative 60. So what's our y-intercept? Negative 60. So if I write this out over here as our new equation, we get y equals what? Not plus, but minus. Don't forget the minus. Yep. Minus 60. Okay? So that is our supply, our equation for supply as a function of price. That means when we plug in a price, it's our x's, right? When we plug in our price, we get our supply. So it's supply as a function of price. It means that our supply is our independent or dependent. Does anyone remember? Anyone remember that? I'm just trying to recall some things you guys have worked on in the past. It's not on here to ask, but that's it's our, what'd you say? Supply is our, is it our independent? Oh, but I asked for supply, sorry. Whoops. Supply, price is our independent, yeah. Because supply is going to depend on our price. Does that make sense? So that means our supplies are dependent, our prices are independent. Okay? So, now I want you guys to go through B. B is asking you to find the equation for demand as a function of price. Okay? So in this case, which columns are we using? 1 and 3. Okay? So your X is still your price, and your Y in this case is the number requested per week per store. Okay? So work together. Find your equation for part B using the same type of ideas that you worked on part A. Okay? Go. I want to hear talking and collaboration. Use other people's brains if needed. Bless you. Talk to each other. No, they don't. They're so quiet. Yeah, that's the one thing. All right. Everyone got something? Okay. What 2 points did you use? 1, 2, or 4? Okay, Amber. You used 1 and
No, I think I want to use like 1 and 2.
1 and 2? Okay. So then 2 and 400. So this is our x, this is our y. So to find our slope, what do? Subtract what? 530 and 400. I'm going to erase this stuff up here. 530 and 400. And then what do you have that over?
1.
Not just 1. If you subtract 530 minus 400, you need to subtract
2 minus 1? Yeah.
what x goes with 530?
1.
1 minus 2. Okay? We can't flip-flop them because that'll change our answer. Because what do we get on the top? 530 minus 400 is what? 130. And what do we get on the bottom? -1. So this is equal to -130, right? If we were to flip it to be 2 minus 1, what would we get on the bottom? A positive, well, positive 130, yeah. And if you go back and look at your equation for demand, do you have a positive slope? No, right? So we got to make sure we keep our x's and our y's together in the way we put them into our equation, okay? So our slope is -130. So you get y equals -130 x plus b, right? And then what point did you choose to plug in? Yeah, Amber? 530, okay. So we plug in 530 for our y equals -130 times 1 plus b. And what did you get for b? 660. So what's our final equation for demand? Yeah, plus 660. And going back to look at your equation, would you agree that your y-intercept for your demand line looks like it should hit the y-intercept about 660, right? So that's, and we also know we have a decreasing slope. That means our slope is supposed to be negative. So that's super helpful, right? So knowing both of these equations now, we want to solve the system of supply and demand equations to find the price in exact equilibrium. Remembering what you guys talked about on Friday, where is equilibrium when looking at our graphs? Do you guys remember? When they intersect, yeah? And what did you guys guess or approximate on Friday? Part 3E, maybe? 3, yeah, 3 1/4, right? So now we get to find, now that we know our exact equations for both of these lines, we get to find the exact equilibrium point, okay? So we're going to see if our guess was right, okay? So solving the system of supply and demand equations to find the price and exact equilibrium. How does this price compare with your answer in the question 3E above? So how do we want to solve these system of equations? Substitution. What are other choices? Why am I blanking?
Elimination.
Elimination, there we go.
Or is graphing an excellent choice?
Yes. Substitution. Okay. So let's do substitution. What do you want to substitute? We have y equals. Our two equations are y equals, our supply is y equals 95x minus 60, right? I'm going to put an S by this. And then demand is the pink one. Y equals negative 130x plus 660. So what is our system going to look like? What are we substituting in? What-
95x minus 60 equals negative 130x plus 660.
Good. So, can you agree with me that y equals y, right? Y equals y. So what you just did was you started with a 95, y equals 95, x minus 60, or the other way around. You can do it either way. And because we know that y also equals negative 130x plus 660, we can take that part of the equation and plug it in for y. So this side of the y will become our negative 130 x plus 660, okay? Solve the system of equations. So what do we do first? Do you want to combine your x terms? Do you want to combine your constants? 95x on both sides, okay. So what do we get on our left side?
Negative 225x
Plus
plus 660.
660 equals negative 60. So what do we do to get combine like terms again? Subtract 660. So your negative 225x equals negative, oh gosh, the math. 720, thank you. I'm gonna write all this out so we can keep going. And what do you do? What's your last step? To get x alone, divide by what?
Negative 225.
Negative 225. So if we divide by negative 225, oh, sorry. Negative 225. What do you get for x? 3.2. Exactly. So, knowing that x equals 3.2, what is that number represented again? The equilibrium. That's where our lines cross or intersect, right? So at $3.20, our lines intersect. So that's our equilibrium. That's when our supply and our demand are going to be at its best, basically. So looking back at 3E, were we correct on our guess? Yeah, we were really, really close, right? We're about 5 cents off, which for just looking at a graph and approximating, that's pretty good, especially when you drew the graphs yourselves. Does that make sense? Okay. Awesome. So that's all we were finishing up today. Any questions on any of that stuff? Everyone feeling good about it? I feel like I don't trust you too. Saw you laughing the whole entire time.
I was surprised
surprising number of people with missing assignments still. Y'all, there's like 4 in a chapter. Which
Yeah.
means by the end of the semester, each of these homeworks is gonna equivalent to about a percentage point in your overall grade, because there's not that many of them. So you are just leaving points sitting there. They're
Homework.
not hard.
Homework 3. Did they get homework 3 last week?
We started talking about it, yeah, but
Okay.
but I recommend it now. Go for it.
Okay. Homework 3 is on page 51. That's the next page. Okay? So, just continuation of what we've been doing, right? So, yeah, your project will be due next Friday. It's next Friday. So, next week, you guys are going to be working on your projects, which you guys are going to talk about
Next week.
next week. Just next week. But you don't have school next Monday. Woo! Get excited. Day off. No? I'm excited. So, yeah. Good job today.